Hey guys, Christian Havre Cardman here, coming at you with my first ever podcast today, and wow, is it exciting to be here. I've been waiting to do this for so long, but I had to wait for a lot of things. The primary thing that I had to wait for was the motivation to do this. So today, I'm going to be sitting down and talking just by myself. I'll probably get some guests in later podcasts, but today I just wanted this to be a more intimate thing, more personal, more just me and you sort of thing. But before we get into talking today, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some quick little advertisements here. So this podcast is sponsored by yours truly. I do not have a sponsor because I am low in audience count and just general viewership, but that is okay. I am just now starting the podcast, and I just started creating content a few months ago. So if you guys have not checked out my channel yet, actually, depending on where this is uploaded and where you're watching it, there'll be links in the notes that will let you guys go check out my YouTube channel, which will also direct you to my Twitter page. I also have a Facebook and an Instagram, but they're not really active. There will be links to those too, as well as all the other stuff I'm involved in. So be sure to go check all that out. I produce some really fun content. I really have a lot of fun just making what I do. I do a lot of like deck reviews, deck profiles every Sunday on the Coalition of Scrubs, another Yu-Gi-Oh channel I'm a part of. Every other Sunday now, I do a card discussion. I just talk about a card in depth, like what it can do, what's its purpose, is there other cards you can play instead, is it even good? So I go over all that stuff in there, so you guys can go check that out too. And then I'm also involved with Team Chaos Stream, where you guys will be able to see my replays and probably some live duels. I'm probably gonna start doing some more of those soon, because I really do enjoy doing live duels, and I have a lot of fun doing those too, so you'll probably see some of that from me as well. So like I said, be sure to go check all that stuff out. If you guys enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh content, be sure, if you want to actually watch my videos, you want to actually see me doing stuff instead of just listening to me talk and ramble, go check all that stuff out. Totally worth it. And if I end up getting big enough, I'll probably end up making my own website so you guys can see my stuff, because honestly at this point YouTube is it's fallen by the wayside and it's not nearly as good as it used to be, but hey, it's fun nonetheless. And if you guys want to be able to support me as a content creator, I don't really have a Patreon or anything open right now, but if you're looking for some Yu-Gi-Oh cards, be sure to go to TCG Player and go to my account and buy some cards from me. I do not have an affiliate link, which is totally fine by me. I don't really need one. I'm just looking to sell some cards, so if you guys want to go support me, go ahead and check that out, buy some cards, and build some awesome decks. And if you want to, go ahead and tweet me, shout me out on Twitter, and let me know what decks you built with whatever cards you bought. I would love to see your guys' creations. I have a lot of fun seeing all sorts of different levels of decks, all the way from jank to tier 1. I don't care. I just love seeing decks. So you guys send me whatever you got, especially if you buy cards from my account. So with that being said, we can talk today about being a vendor in 2020, and is it a good idea to start vending in 2020, more specifically in the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game than really any other game. I do dabble in a little bit of Magic, and I might go to Pokemon here before too long, but the question I'm answering today specifically is it worth it to become a Yu-Gi-Oh vendor in 2020? And if you want the short answer, it's confusing. That's the short answer. If that's what you came here to hear, the short answer is that it's confusing, because it really can go either way. It fully depends on how you play your cards. But before I get into talking about that, I'm gonna talk over some of just like the state of the game right now in terms of being a vendor and just how products are right now. So Konami, as of lately, has actually been doing really good at producing, I think, some pretty balanced products. They're not like flooding the market with all these different crazy cards that like everyone's searching after, and they're just like, they're all over the place. They're doing a good job of kind of keeping a balance between like the very niche market and the very niche people of what kind of cards they like, for like the collectors or the really jank style players. They have the niche for that, and then they're also filling like the meta and vendor side of things. So they're like putting out these more high value cards that people are really, really going to be looking after for both the collectors and the meta market. So it's like they've got cards that are for everybody, and then they've also have their niche market. They're doing a pretty good job at balancing that, I think, and they're really doing good at building up hype for all these sets too. I mean, especially with all of like the good generic cards they've been coming out with, like Rise of the Duelist just dropped, and we just got Forbidden Droplets, Triple Tactical Talents. Dogmatica is kind of a splashable engine in several decks. Like, it's so easy to throw that into pretty much any deck that is considered a good generic card, a set of cards, I think, at this point. There's plenty of other good stuff. stuff. You know, there's been other sets too. Like Toon Chaos was really good. All the Chaos cards were really sought after. Pot of Desires. Ooh, sorry. Or Pot of Extravagance, I mean, was also a really big search card for that deck, especially the collector's rares. Starlight rares have been huge. People are going after those. They're building up a lot of hype for all of these different sets that allow people to want to keep buying their product and to allow the secondary market to continue living, because now you're looking at people buying all these singles that the secondary market has opened up from all these different boxes. I myself, I started roughly around Eternity Code. I started picking up products to vend. So obviously going off of that, I haven't been here very long, but I'm here today to tell you guys like what I think, like what my experience has been basically of becoming a vendor in 2020 and how well it's been working. So when I did Eternity Code, I bought 4 boxes because I was really excited for the set. There were a lot of good cards I was looking for. The Animadorn Archosaur, you know, the Mekk-Knight Girsu, a lot of the Starlight rares, well, the secret rares, I should say. I was looking for a lot of the secret rares because they were helping a lot of the strategies that I was trying to play at that point in time, so I could build deck profiles for, and I really love shiny cards. And I said, you know what, I'm definitely seeing a lot of value in these cards, so I'm going to pick up several boxes, increase my chances of picking up these cards. And luckily enough for me, I ended up pulling a Starlight rare. It was just a Traptrix Allomeris Starlight rare, but selling that card at like the $200+ I was able to get out of it, I was able to pay back the 4 boxes that I had bought to get that card. And then with that money, I actually ended up buying another 4 boxes and getting another Starlight rare so that I could pay back those boxes. And then all the other value cards I sold on top of that were just purely profit that I could use to invest towards the next set, which I believe I waited until Toon Chaos to really invest in anything else, which Toon Chaos also really paid off, I think, in the end. I ended up pulling the Starlight Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End, and some other really good value cards. I ended up making my money back on that pretty well, plus some extra bucks. So, I mean, when you're looking at the products and the hype that Konami's building up, I mean, it's definitely working on me, for sure. I definitely really enjoy buying all these new products. I really think there's a lot of value to be had out of them. I think they're doing pretty good at dropping stuff right now. But in terms of timing, I think it's unfortunately very poor because, as everyone knows, we're amidst all this COVID stuff, or as the Yu-Gi-Oh community likes to call it, this crush card virus. And it's really been impactful to the community, I've noticed, because when I was buying singles before I got into vending last year, before all of the COVID stuff happened, when I was buying singles for all of my decks, I noticed the prices were not nearly as astronomical as they are now. That's most likely in part to Konami short printing cards. They've definitely come clean about short printing cards, but that doesn't mean they've stopped doing it. And they've also eliminated the rarity, so there's no longer rare cards. It just goes straight from commons to super rares to ultras and so on and so forth. So that has definitely had an impact on the value of cards. Sure, having the rare cards didn't really do much in terms of like, you know, but it gave you more of a chance to have the cards you wanted be in just a rarity instead of like a super or up, because once you get into the super or up, the value definitely increases. Now, super's not too insane. You're usually like a couple bucks at most on that, and that's for like really high value search cards. But when you get up into like the ultra rare and higher, then you're starting to talk some money, like probably like a $10-15 minimum for just a single copy of a card. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but it does add up quick, especially when you're talking about top strategies where like most of their cards are being printed in that rarity. Like look at Dogmatica. Several of their really important cards are ultras or secret rares. Pretty much all of their important cards are secrets and ultras. You look at Eldritch. The main card of that deck was a secret rare out of a deck building set, and he's currently, last I checked, he was like $135 a copy. And I mean, you think about that kind of stuff and how crazy expensive some of these decks can get, and some of these cards, and just how astronomically priced they've gone. I've noticed a trend, like ever since Lightning Storm came out, to me that almost felt like the pinnacle of these $100 cards in sets. Like before, yeah, sure, maybe I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Like last September or something like that. I've been buying boxes since then. I've been really getting addicted to just buying collections. And what I've noticed out of all those boxes is that, like, since Ignition Assault, when Lightning Storm came out, Konami really started hounding on those $100 card prices because they know that draws the attention. That draws the crowd to buy more products. And that is the one thing about Konami that a lot of people don't like, is that they are a business and they have to act like one. They are out for profit, and to make sure their business can continue growing by selling all these cards at usually engrossed prices and making such a high demand for them by putting cards in such short prints that people have to buy several boxes to be able to get those cards. And I think that is kind of like the sad reality of the state of the game right now, is that prices have skyrocketed. Now, this is a good and a bad thing for vending, because you're talking about heightening these prices. So yes, you're going to get more money out of the individual cards, but you're going to be much less likely to be able to make that sale now, because you have to worry about about overcharging the customer and them not wanting to buy your product because you have to raise the prices so high. And I think that is definitely an issue for vendors. It's a very big issue that I've been dealing with so far. My workaround for it was to undershoot everyone else on the market, because I felt like I could afford it since I was just an individual investor. I didn't have anyone else relying on me, or I didn't have to rely on anyone else. This was all personally out of pocket and all personally my money. So I felt like there wasn't as much at stake, especially the fact that I do have a full-time job to help support me for all this. And that is the big thing about vending too, is you really do need a good amount of money to be able to invest in. Personally, I'd say like $450 is the minimum to get invested in vending. And I think honestly I'd probably go as far as to say $500 at the very least, because not only do you have to worry about buying product, you have to worry about buying the materials for shipping. So that can include, depending on what you plan on doing. Me personally, I've only been selling singles. I don't sell boxes. I don't sell bulk. I am going to start selling bulk products here soon, just to clear out some space and make a few extra bucks. But when it comes to that stuff, you really have to know what you're selling, and that really will determine a lot of things, because vending isn't always just selling cards. Sure, my definition of vending is just selling singles and making profit off of like really high value cards. Not everyone is going to work that way. Not everyone wants to take that gamble. Some people would rather play it safe and sell sealed product, or in some cases, people will sell external products like deck boxes and sleeves and playmats and stuff like that. You can sell that stuff on TCG Player too. And now this isn't exclusive to TCG Player. You guys can vend anywhere you feel safe doing it. Personally, I've just really had a good experience with TCG Player so far. Their support has been fairly helpful. I've had no problem contacting my customers and being able to contact the people that I'm buying from to make sure that everything is shipping just fine. I've had no problem with that so far. TCG Player, I think, is a great base site, especially when you're just starting to vend. It really walks you through everything and really helps you figure out how to do everything. I think it's got a really good interface. Some days it can be a little bit slow, but I mean, that's so many different websites. I feel like you're going to find that on just about any card dealing website you go to. And the last thing I would recommend is Amazon. I would personally say do not go with Amazon at all. It is such a ridiculous platform to try to sell on. eBay is a little bit iffy, mostly because there's a lot of trust issues with eBay. I know not everyone, myself included, is really a huge fan of using eBay because it's just kind of a sketchy site all around. TCG Player I've found to be a little bit more reliable. I try not to shop on eBay if I can help it. Usually there's going to be a lot of cheaper card prices there though, because people really just want to sell their stuff and just get it gone, and they don't really worry too much about finding out the proper value. So if you're really looking for cheap, I mean, you can go eBay, but if you're looking to be a vendor and make some money, TCG Player is a really good competitive market. And that's the nice thing, is since it is competitive, it does keep prices down to an extent. But at the same time, as soon as you see somebody raising their prices to an extreme amount, then there's going to be a lot more people doing it. But also, as soon as you see someone shoot way down, you know that your card value is just tanked in price, and the price you have it listed at most likely is not going to sell anymore. And that's another one of the bigger problems that I've been dealing with lately. Especially, I'm trying to sell an Astral Utopia right now, and I've been the lowest on the market for quite a while, but I've seen some people finally starting to kind of undercut me by a few bucks, and a couple of cases like $15, and that really hurts. And it's been weird too, because even when I've had the lowest listing on TCG Player, I've had cards that were higher priced than mine sell before me. And I'm not quite sure why that happens. I get the feeling that it's something psychologically to do with shipping price, because I also listed this at the same time I adjusted my shipping price to $2.99 per package. And this is a lesson for you guys to learn as well. If you're already vending, or if you are just going into vending, beware of this. Be careful when you're selling cheap cards. especially if you're trying to account for the shipping cost in each of those individual cards. Because say I have a card that's $1.39 and my shipping price is $1.69, which is what I originally had it set to. So say you've got that, but you don't want to have, so you're accounting for the individual buying one single card, paying the shipping price and the card cost and sending out, and that's it. So you list the card for like 30 cents with $1.69 shipping. The thing is if you do that with several cards and you list a bunch of cards like that and you list them at that price like that, that shipping cost doesn't apply to all the other cards that are in the same package. The shipping cost only applies to one person, one time, when they order from you in that session. So I've had people that buy like 80 cards from me because I had them listed too cheap, and they realized that my shipping cost was what made the difference in the card price. So they went to my inventory, found all the extra cards they wanted from me. They were super cheap, bought them all, and they walk out with like 80 cards for about $15. And it was devastating when I learned that lesson, because I also didn't realize that. I didn't read the fine print when I was signing up for TCG Player as a vendor. I didn't pay attention to that fact that the shipping price does not count when it's several cards in one package. It only counts once and not after that. So what I've started doing now, I've just started listing cards at their normal average price and just leaving the shipping. Now, I did have to bump it up to $2.99 for that reason of people buying bulk like that, because it's been so hard to put in all that packaging, and then that goes over the shipping cost, and it's like, well, now I'm losing money because I'm giving these guys these cards, and basically all the money they're paying me is just for the cards. They're not covering any of the shipping. That's basically all coming out of my pocket at this point, which, once again, this goes back to me being a single investor who has a decent amount of money to back me up, so that, if I take a loss, it's not too much of a big deal. It's more so of a learning experience. And that is the nice thing about my situation, is that I have that cushion behind me so that I can learn these lessons as I go along and be able to share them with you guys, so that you don't have to worry about making them. And that's so hopefully I don't make them in the future and I can actually start to make a living off of this. Maybe not a full living, but at least a good little like side bonus money, and still be able to build the decks that I like to play, because a lot of what I like to play anyways is rogue decks that don't cost very much money, so I can just kind of keep those cards to myself and sell the rest, and usually make a decent amount of money back from it. So going back to the original point, $500 investing to become a vendor, because you're going to be spending, depending on when you buy sets, and this is another thing I recommend too, is pre-order sets as soon as you can, because that's another trend that I've noticed, is that sets will start out at like an average of about $72 a box. That's when you want to buy them, because before long, especially depending on the demand for the product and the hype behind it, if it's a really hyped up set, you want to get in there as quickly as you can, because before you know it, that $72 will become $95 a box with $8.99 shipping. Like, they get expensive quick. I watched this happen actually just with Toon Chaos. I was lucky and I bought 8 boxes at $72 a piece. Well, technically, okay, so I bought the original 4 at the $72 a piece. And then once I started looking at the set more and I started seeing all the cards that were revealed and how much value was in it, I went to go buy another 4. Well, the first time I checked to go buy another 4 boxes, they were already at $93 a box. About a week later, I saw them drop back down to $82, and I just snatched them up then. And thankfully I did, because that's when I ended up pulling that Chaos Emperor Dragon. And I actually, this just happened with the last set that came out too. Well, before Rise of the Duelist here, I pulled the Astral Utopia. If I hadn't bought those extra boxes for that set as well, I definitely would not have gotten it. So it's really, it's one of those things, you gotta know when to invest the extra money and when to just kind of let it go, because there are some sets that will not perform well as others. So you got to kind of know like what the market's looking for, how much value the cards are going to give you, and just if it's really worth it or not to actually go pick it up. And Battle Legends Armageddon was the set I was forgetting about. Sorry about that. But yeah, just knowing what's in the set is such a huge factor in determining whether or not it's worth it. Now, obviously, when you get to something like Battle of Legends Armageddon, and you see something like the 10,000 Dragon or the Astral Utopia, the Astral Utopia at the start of it was fetching like almost $500. It's still sitting around that $450, $475 range, so it's still sitting pretty good in value. It's kind of leveled out. The 1,000 Dragon, last time I checked, it had climbed up to $1,300, $1,400 a copy. I'm very sad because I ordered, I believe, 8 boxes and I did not pull a copy out of it. Unfortunately, I almost debated picking up more, but by the time I thought about it, the boxes were up to like the $94 range, like I had mentioned. So it's really hard to know when to invest in it. It's one of those things you have to learn over time. You learn with practice, and you learn with each new set how Konami prints things, and like what your odds of getting certain cards are. The more you watch the market and the more you watch these products that Konami releases, it will change a whole lot about your perception and how you invest in things. Because you also don't have to invest in sealed product either. If you're not a gambling person like I am, and you don't think you have that great of luck at pulling the good cards, even with the quantity of boxes that you buy, you can always go the route of purchasing singles when they're low in price, and when you think they're about, or like just before you think they're about to skyrocket, you can go purchase those cards, and then as soon as they go up in price, you can start to sell them off again. I think it'd be better to sell them off like one by one because the price might keep increasing. So as long as you're selling a few copies, you're at least getting your money back on those, and then you have a chance to make a profit, because as long as you sell as few copies right away while the price is climbing, you're getting something out of it, and then if they keep climbing, you're getting even more and more value out of it, and you're happy that you didn't cut off too soon. But if it starts dipping down again, you can just sell them all right away and try to save yourself before you lose value on it. It is kind of a risky play to go that way. If you want to just sell everything as soon as the price starts going up, that's understandable too. Just be wary of flooding the market, especially if you have a lot of copies for whatever reason. I tried to do this with Utopia's Zexal, or Utopic Zexal. I tried to buy a few copies of him before the release of Battles of Legends Armageddon because I had the feeling that the Numerons were going to be coming out in this set, and sure enough, they did. Unfortunately, the Utopic Zexals didn't really climb in price. People were already expecting them. I'm pretty sure as soon as people saw Numerons announced, like anywhere, even for just the OCG, and they knew that they were coming to the TCG at some point, they just instantly picked up their copies of Utopic Zexal, and there's enough copies of him floating around that he's not even really that expensive. So something like that is a little bit harder to keep track of. Once again, that's another one of those things you got to get a feel for the market. You got to really be paying attention to the meta and the collector's market, because those two will determine a lot of your value for a lot of cards, since those are like the two biggest buyers in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. Your casual players aren't really buying as much because, as the name suggests, they're casual players. They're just there to play with their cards and have fun. They're not necessarily looking for the highest priced cards and like the most competitive. They just want to play with what they got and have a fun time. They're not too stressed about getting like the best cards. So be looking more for that collectors and that meta market, because those are the ones that will definitely net you the most value. And while we're speaking about that, I definitely recommend watching market watches. MCole40 has some good ones. He's doing a lot of market watches. Definitely keep up with him. I noticed MTV or MST TV Nishi over there does some pretty good market watches too. Not quite as often because they put a little bit more editing into their videos, which is understandable. I know that feeling. But he does do market watches over there. Usually when a set is about to drop or when a new deck is about to drop, whatever, they go through market watches over there. So definitely go check them out. The Cali Effect does some content. He doesn't really do market watches so much, but he does like the buy these cards before they skyrocket. And there's been several times where he's been fairly accurate. I wouldn't trust it 100%. Definitely take it with a grain of salt, because he is just a person. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to be wrong about things. But these guys have had some experience with the market. They have had their time with the market buying and selling cards, and they definitely do at least know what they're talking about to a fairly good extent. So does not hurt to listen to them and at least hear what they have to say. If you disagree with them, that's totally fine. I mean, I understand everyone feels like they have to be right, or maybe not everyone, but to a degree, we all kind of feel like we have to be right deep down. So if you disagree with them, or like you feel that you question them a little bit too much, that's understandable, but it doesn't hurt to at least hear them out and get the thought kind of rolling around in your head, because sometimes they might actually just be right and it might be the perfect way to go, and you just can't realize it because you're stuck in your own thoughts. So definitely be more open to suggestions, especially for starting vendors. Be ready to take some advice. Be ready to to listen to people, especially your buyers. Your buyers are the biggest people to listen to. There is a reason that my TCG player, I am a level 4 seller right now, and there is a reason that I have 100% rating, even with as much as I've screwed up. There's several packages so far where like I didn't put enough postage on it because I didn't read the USPS guidelines closely enough, and I didn't realize how much postage I was supposed to put on my packages. There's been one time where I accidentally missed a card. It was supposed to be 2 copies of a card instead of 1. And, just being able to take care of your customers and listen to their needs and know how to take care of them is such a huge part of being a vendor, because as soon as that rating goes down, as soon as you start losing that, like even if I were to go from like 100% down to like a 90 or an 80 or even a 70% rating, that's going to make people a lot less likely to buy my cards, because they're like, oh, somebody's had a problem with the seller before. Can I fully trust them? Can I rely on them to actually send me the card in the proper listed condition without damaging, without having to go to the post office and pay the extra for the shipping cost? Am I going to be able to rely on this guy to take care of me as a buyer? And they may not word it like that in their heads, but there's always this level of trust that your buyers place, especially in those ratings. Like, you think about it this way: you go to Amazon, right, and you're looking to buy a new product. Say you're like me and you're looking to buy a new soundboard. Okay, well, you're looking to buy something for a setup. You want to purchase something good and reliable. You're investing your money in this. You want to make sure it's a good product. So what do? You look at the questions. You see what people have answered, how the thing works, making sure that all the specs are exactly how you want it. And then you go read the reviews. You read the reviews to make sure that the users that bought it before you have had a good experience with this product. You want to make sure that it's a good quality, that it's going to last you, that it's going to be reliable, that it's going to meet the value that you're paying for it. You are going to check those reviews to make sure that what you're buying is good and that the person you're buying from is trustworthy, reliable, and will take care of you should a problem arise. Because this is life. Problems come up all the time. Without even meaning to, like the vendor or the seller could do something entirely perfect. They could package your product perfectly, everything down to there to the T, exactly how you wanted it, everything's included, and they ship it. And say the shipping company, I'm not going to say any names just so I don't get any flack. Whatever shipping company maybe doesn't ship it right. Like they end up damaging the product or something happens to it. Well, at that point, it could be marked up to an accident, so it's not really anyone's fault at that point. It's not the seller's fault. It's not the buyer's fault. It's not the shipper's fault. But unfortunately, the responsibility to fix the issue typically falls on the seller. And that is because they're the source of the product. Everyone else was just kind of the in-between to get to the end point, which is the buyer. Everyone else goes straight to the source to solve the problem. And that is entirely on you as a vendor. So say, for example, I sent a package and something got messed up along the way. It got sent to the wrong address, or, there was something that went down that made my customer pay more, or the product was damaged and not in the condition that was listed because of the damage. Well, at that point, obviously, the shipping company would not own up to anything like that. They wouldn't pay for any of that. That's not their job. They were just there to deliver the package, and they delivered it. So at that point, it falls on the seller, which is me in this scenario, to make it right with the customer. Now, there's several different ways you could do this. Obviously, my most common way is to issue a partial refund, because nothing I've noticed satisfies people more than getting some of their money back. Sure, they may feel like they've been cheaped out because they lost some money in whatever scenario, like say for the example where I missed a card, where I forgot to ship that one card. When it was supposed to be 2 copies, I only shipped 1. In that case, I issued the partial refund for the card, and I also issued the refund for the shipping. I know it cost me a few extra cents, but it made the customer happy because they got to take back the money for the card they spent, and they essentially got the card for free. They paid for partial shipping because at that point, well, okay, they only paid for the card. It would be more so equivalent to them buying the card in store and not having to worry about the shipping. So they were happy with that because they got the card in the listed condition. They didn't get both copies, but they at least got their money back, and they didn't have to worry about the shipping fee anymore. That is how you take care of your customers. It is very situational on how you take care of your customers. Obviously, different situations call for different fixes. And I'm not going to say that refunding is going to fix all of your problems, especially when it comes to vending, but it definitely helps a lot. And it's one of those things you have to have some sort of experience in customer service to understand how to take care of people. Now, I've been in customer service. I've been working at a restaurant for almost 5 years now. And I know that that's a lot different than being a vendor for a trading card game. But at the same time, it's a job that teaches you how to treat people. It teaches you how to approach people with respect, realize the situation, realize the issue in the situation, and find a peaceful way to bring it to resolution that will benefit the customer in a way that makes them happy enough to still leave you a good review at the end of the day. That is the thing I've noticed, because people will forgive. They will understand that we are humans and we screw up. As long as you own up to it and apologize and realize that you made the mistake, even if it wasn't your mistake, as long as you apologize for the inconvenience and you try to make things as right with them as you can, 9 times out of 10 at the end of the day, you'll have end up resolving the situation in a much more peaceful way than just coming back at the customer and saying, this was not my fault, this is not my issue, take it up with the shipping company. You know, that is not the proper way to handle things. Just own up to it. Or if it's not your fault, even if it's not your fault, just at least resolve the situation peacefully, find a way to make the customer comfortable, make them happy. That's what you're here to do as a vendor. You are here to make the customers happy, because if you don't make the customers happy, they're not going to want to give you their money. So to actually make money, you have to provide the service as well. It's not just sending out cards and getting money. You have to actually deal with these human interactions. Even if it's purely over the internet, you have to know how to handle these situations, because they will come up, especially if you're a solo vendor like I am and you're not working in any sort of store that does all of this like a daily profession. I just ship out all of my products in the morning. I put them all together in my envelopes, label everything, and get it sent out that morning. And that's pretty much it. I don't have anyone to back me up to double check everything, to make sure that everything's in order. And it's especially hard when you get those orders that are like 80 cards and people are just buying bulk from you. It does make it hard when you have to do that, because you have to double check through everything and make sure that you're not missing anything. So you really just have to be conscientious as a vendor and be aware of your customer, be aware of their feelings, be aware of how to treat them and how you come across when you are a vendor, because attitude also means everything. If you come off with a peaceful tone and you're happy and like you're just being vibrant and as positive as you can, it definitely reflects. It reflects a lot. I've noticed that with everyone. They've been like super appreciative of my responses, because I come at them in such a nice manner that, you know, it definitely helps out a lot. Sure, the problem still exists and I do my best to get it solved, but at the end of the day, it definitely makes it a much more peaceful experience for both parties, and it makes it a much more positive experience, which allows them to leave such a positive review on my page. And that's why all of my reviews right now are 100% reviews. I'd say out of all the things I've done vending, that is probably the one thing I've done the most right, is knowing how to take care of my customers. And once again, I know that it does hurt me a little bit, but that little small investment in your customers can come back to do you a lot of good in the future, because with all those positive reviews, I'm much more likely to make a lot of sales. Like, sure, I've had to refund these guys a couple of bucks over the last week or so, but since then I have sold several. I've sold a $70 card, a $91 card, several $20, $30 cards. I've been selling my high value cards, and I think that's in good fact because of my rating. People do pay attention to that a lot more than you'd think. And I'm not saying this as a personal perspective. I've watched so many other people that they'll go through the ratings and be like, okay, here's this card. It's at a good price that I like. It's in the condition that I want. It's the rarity that I want. It's the exact perfect card that I want. And they go and look at the rating and they see it's only like a 75%, and they just say, nope, I'm going to go buy from someone else that's maybe $5 more expensive, because that person has a 90% rating and they seem much more reliable. You can see how many sales they've made. And that definitely is a huge factor. If you got a high number of sales and you have a high rating, it definitely does a lot in affecting the algorithm. Because if you're matching prices with people, so normally TCG Player lists the lowest price first for any given card. They try to list the highest conditions first. So like they try to list near mint and lightly played first. But then from there, they go to the lowest price. So Obviously you got to be competitive with your prices, but you'll show up higher in the list with the right price. But then if you're tying with other people for the same price, you'll probably show up above them if you have a better rating. That is just, it's part of the algorithm. It's kind of a similar way to YouTube works. The more successful you are, the more likely it is you'll show up. So it's more so you got to work yourself up the ladder. You got to be ready to do the grind, because there will be a while that you're not being profitable. It's like any business. The start of it, you'll be investing, you'll be in the hole for a little bit. At least, like figuratively speaking, you won't be making as much money as you're spending at the beginning, but it will start to pick up before long, as long as you keep that positive attitude, you keep your prices competitive, and you're just playing your cards right overall. And now I can't tell you how to play everything right, obviously, because I'm not super business savvy. I haven't been vending for very long. I've only been vending for like a couple months now, but this has been my story so far. And I really think that in 2020, if you have the time and money to invest in being a vendor, it is worth it. With all the good product that's coming out right now, so like I said, Rise of the Duelist just came out. There's so many different high value cards in there, and it's so easy. Like, I'm not gonna say it's super easy to pull them, but you can definitely get some value out of this set if you invest the right amount. Not only that, but there's more sets coming out, like the 2020 Megatons are super hyped right now. Everyone is ready for Dragoon of Red Eyes. I have 12 boxes on the way myself. Time will tell very quickly if that was a bad investment or not. But in the end, I mean, it's your personal preference. It's your money. You decide how you invest it and how you want to make your money. Once again, you don't have to buy sealed products. You can go the single card route. You can go through buying the external products like the sleeves, the deck boxes, the playmats. You can do all sorts of that stuff, marking your prices up to make sure you're getting money back from them. I know my buddy Team Chaos streamer Dank Chaos is working on his own playmats right now to sell for his channel, and I think that's super cool. Definitely be free to design your own stuff if you can put the money into it and you feel you can make something back out of it, or at least be able to make a return on your investment and have fun in the process. I think that's really worth it. If you're making your money back, because I mean, you think about it, if you're able to get all this stuff and then still make your money back off of it and have stuff left over, like I mentioned, when I buy these boxes and I sell the high value cards, I make back my money on those boxes, and then everything else I sell after that is pure profit or for me. So it's like you're getting a win out of that no matter what. You're profiting in some way, shape, or form, as long as you're playing your cards right and you're knowing when to list, you're knowing how much to list it at, and how many to list. It's really, like I've mentioned before, this is such a big learning curve because you have to learn this pretty much all as you go. I didn't really look into this a lot before starting. I just kind of went and invested, and I really wish I had something like this to help me get started. I'm sure there's plenty of free resources out there, especially on YouTube and other podcasting sites, that you guys can check out to learn a lot of this vending stuff and learning how to become a seller, or even work on opening your brick and mortar store. There's so many resources out there you guys can look up. Don't be dumb like me. Do your research. Definitely look into how people are operating and learn from them. That's one of our biggest teachers in life, is learning from the mistakes of others before we make those mistakes ourselves. Because if we can save ourselves from making those mistakes, it actually can save us a lot in the long run. I know so many people that can invest in something and before they know it, that investment has just left them with even less money than they started with. And it's because they invested in the wrong place. They didn't take the time to look into things first. They just kind of jumped in head first. And that's kind of what I've done. I got lucky with my timing and with how I went about it. I got lucky enough to where I was investing in the right stuff, and I just happened to get the right things out of it, and I got the right value back. So this is one of those things you got to know how to play your cards. It's like poker. Even though I can't really say that because I'm not a professional poker player and I've never really played poker seriously, but if you're thinking about it in terms like that, you just, like I said, you got to know when to use your cards, when to play your cards, or when to fold them. You got to know when to raise the stakes, when to give up on them. It's all a gamble. This is all purely a gamble. There's no set recipe on how to make money off of this. There are definitely a lot of tips and techniques that you can use that will help you have a higher chance at being successful and a higher chance at being profitable, but there's no guaranteed way to make any of this work, especially with the state of the world right now, with all the COVID stuff going on. Financial stuff has been rough lately. It's been hard for some people to be able to afford all this. I know people were riding unemployment for a while, but I think that's come to a close now, and they're not even, and unemployment's not even a thing anymore, I'm pretty sure, at least not to the extent that it was for COVID benefits. And there's just been a whole lot of things that have been making it harder for people to just afford living. And I know that that can definitely factor into the market, whether it be in increasing prices because there's not as much of a demand for the cards, so they got to up prices to make profit, or if it's just in not making sales at all because there's nobody there to buy, and that could definitely really affect the market a lot. So the state of the world is definitely something to take into consideration. I know that's a much more broad spectrum and much more broad way to look at things because it doesn't necessarily affect it as much as it affects other things. But for sure, this market and this economy has still been affected by these global changes and stuff like this, despite the fact that companies are still continuing to operate for the most part like normal. Economies kept printing. Sure, they've had a set delayed by a while just because of the COVID stuff, and their factories weren't printing. So there are things like that do come up. But the fact that the company is still going, it's still making product, making really good product, I think, really well balanced at least. So it's really good in that regard. I think there's a lot of different reasons to become a vendor right now, but also a lot of different reasons to not become a vendor. If you're one of those people that is struggling right now, first of all, I'm very sorry that you are in this situation because this is a tough time to be alive right now. Especially because it feels like we're almost entering into a stage of repeat of history from the early 1900s. But I'm not going to get into that. That's too political. So, but if you're one of those people in that situation, vending might not be the right choice because, like I said, it does take a while of investing and working on getting those returns. You're not going to be seeing them right away, usually. So it's definitely one of those things you got to be careful about when you're doing it. Make sure that you've got stuff saved up. Make sure you have a backup plan in case things go wrong. And if you're really weary about it, don't invest too much to begin with. Really, vending doesn't have to be super hardcore right away. You can always start small. You could always just buy a single box of a product to start with, or you could just buy a few singles and try to sell them for a higher price. You can always work your way up. There's always time to work your way up. You don't need to start big right away. Sure, I recommended earlier that I think it's best to start off with at least $500 to invest in. If you're a single investor anyways, to buy enough product to get you started. But really, you can start off with $20 and you can definitely make something out of that depending on how you play things. So it really is a matter of how well you handle yourself as a vendor and how well you learn the market and how well you manipulate it to fit your needs and be able to get you back what you're looking for out of this. So, and that's another thing you need to ask yourself too, is what do you want out of this? Are you looking to make a profit? Are you looking to just be able to break even with the products that you've purchased? Maybe you're a content creator like me and you're buying all this product to do openings and to make deck profiles or do other sorts of interesting stuff with. But then after that, you don't really have a need for it. So you sell those cards to make your money back on that. You know, what are you doing this for? What are you becoming a vending for? Is it purely for profit? Is it for your personal entertainment so you can be like me and keep those cards after you're done but still be able to make your money back? And, you know, it's what are you doing this for will determine a lot of how you go about this and how you actually go about making your money or just breaking even. You know, whatever you want to do with this, it's entirely up to you. And once again, definitely use all the resources you have available to you. I would recommend so far as to even going outside of just the Yugioh market, just looking up general business videos and like business models and just general ways of operating a business. I think it's really important to look into all that stuff. Once again, I know that I didn't, but this is one of those things I'm telling you to learn from my mistakes and not do the same things I did. Do your time, make your research, or take your research, and just go about life. You know, do things how you want to do it, but obviously make sure that they're sensible and that you're actually going to get something out of it. And you're not just doing it, making constant mistakes, and not learning a thing from them. So, you know, I really don't think I can rant on this anymore. Thank you guys so much if you sat through all of this today. I'm sorry that you had to listen to my annoying voice this whole time. I really had a lot of fun doing this. I definitely plan on doing more of these. I actually have several other podcasts lined up, and I might even have some special guests coming here before too long. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and having this great time. Let me know what you guys think. If there's comments down below, be sure to let me know your thoughts on the podcast and what you'd like to hear from me next. So once again, before we leave, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel. Once again, links from on the YouTube channel will lead you to my Twitter and my inactive Facebook and Instagram pages. I might start getting active on those again if they start to pick up. So be aware of those, and also check out the other channels I'm involved in, like the Coalition of Scrubs and Team Chaos Stream. Go show them all some love. Everyone is awesome creators, and they really all deserve your love. So please go check everyone out. Everything will be linked in the notes if there's notes. If not, and it's all on my YouTube channel as well. You can find it all there in any of my videos. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I hope to see you all in the next podcast or on one of my videos on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for sharing your time with me today. I love all of y'all. Peace out. I'm a love giver.